The starship glided through the vast emptiness, its crystalline hull refracting starlight in subtle patterns of iridescence. Commander Zora Vex stood at the primary observation deck, her multifaceted eyes scanning the holographic displays that surrounded her. The vessel, a marvel of technological precision, represented the pinnacle of the Luminary exploratory fleet, a civilization that had mapped thousands of star systems over centuries of careful exploration. This particular sector seemed unremarkable. Countless similar regions had been charted before, sparse, with minimal stellar activity, and rarely containing anything of significant interest. The ship's advanced sensors swept methodically, collecting data with mechanical precision. Most species would have considered this a routine mission, but the Luminary approached every journey with a blend of scientific curiosity and strategic caution. A soft chime interrupted the ambient hum of the ship's systems. The junior scientific officer, a young luminary named Krell, adjusted the sensor resolution with practiced movements. Something had caught their attention, a faint electromagnetic signature that didn't quite match the standard background radiation of deep space. "Commander," Krell called out, a note of uncertainty in his voice, "I'm detecting an anomalous signal from the third planet of a nearby solar system." Zara moved closer to the display, her neural implants interfacing directly with the ship's computational matrix. The hologram expanded, revealing a small blue-green world orbiting an unremarkable yellow star. Preliminary scans showed a planet teeming with complex biological systems, its atmosphere a swirling mix of gases that immediately suggested the potential for life. But it was the technological signatures that truly captured Zora's attention. They were primitive by Luminary standards: crude radio waves, satellite networks, and the telltale electronic emissions of a developing technological civilization. Most exploration teams would have filed a standard report and moved on. But something about this world felt different. The ship's cultural database began processing the intercepted signals. Fragments of communication, broadcasts, data streams, a chaotic symphony of information that most advanced civilizations would find incomprehensible. Yet within the chaos, Zora detected something unusual. These beings communicated with a complexity that defied their apparent technological level. Krell manipulated the holographic controls, pulling up more detailed information. The planet appears to be in a critical developmental stage. They've begun exploring their own solar system, but haven't achieved consistent faster-than-light travel. Classification would typically be pre-contact, minimal interaction protocol. Zara's response came slowly, her neural implants working overtime to process the incoming data. The civilization's communication patterns were unlike anything in the extensive Luminary database. They seemed to operate on multiple levels simultaneously: technological, cultural, informational, in a way that suggested something beyond linear development. Recordings of their global communication networks revealed a species in constant motion. Scientific discoveries happened at a pace that seemed almost frantic. Cultural exchanges occurred with a fluidity that suggested an almost organic approach to knowledge transfer. Their technological systems were neither perfectly efficient nor completely chaotic. They existed in a state of constant, dynamic adaptation. "We'll need a comprehensive report," Zora instructed Krell. "Compile everything. Something about this civilization feels different." Little did they know that this different quality would soon challenge everything the Luminary understood about intelligent life. The blue-green planet, catalogued simply as Earth in their database, was about to become far more than a routine entry in their galactic records. As the starship continued its silent observation, the first tendrils of a remarkable encounter were already taking shape, a meeting that would ultimately redefine the very concept of intelligence in the known universe. The Global Communications Center hummed with an electric tension that even the most seasoned researchers could feel. Dr. Elena Rodriguez leaned forward, her fingers hovering just above the holographic interface that captured the alien transmission. Around her, a carefully selected team of linguists, mathematicians, psychologists, and communication specialists worked with a precision that betrayed years of preparation for this exact moment. The alien signal was unlike anything they had previously encountered. It arrived not as a simple radio wave or digital transmission, but as a complex multilayered communication that seemed to exist simultaneously across multiple information spectrums. Most scientific teams would have been overwhelmed, but this group saw an opportunity. "It's a standard diplomatic protocol," whispered Dr. Marcus Chen, the team's lead linguist. His eyes darted across multiple translation matrices, each attempting to decode different layers of the transmission. "But there's something beneath the surface. Watch the structural patterns." The transmission itself was a masterpiece of alien diplomacy. Couched in what appeared to be a generous offer of interstellar cooperation, it contained layers of implied hierarchy and subtle power dynamics. The luminary clearly expected a predictable response: submission, negotiation, or outright rejection. They had encountered countless developing civilizations before and had perfected a communication strategy that had worked across hundreds of different species. What they hadn't anticipated was a human response. Dr. Rodriguez began to construct the reply with surgical precision. Each word, each conceptual framework was carefully chosen. The human team understood something profound about communication that most species missed. Language is not just about information transfer, but about creating entire worlds of possibility. Their response would be a masterpiece of strategic communication. The initial draft went through 17 iterations. Mathematical models predicted potential response patterns. Psychological profiles analyzed every potential interpretation. The team didn't just want to respond to the alien message. They wanted to send a communication that would make the luminary question everything they understood about first contact. "We're not just responding," Dr. Chen explained to the team. "We're engaging in a form of intellectual judo. We'll use their own communication framework to reveal the limitations of their approach." The final message was deceptively simple. On the surface, it appeared to be a straightforward diplomatic response. But embedded within its structure were layers of complexity that would take the luminary researchers months, perhaps years, to fully unpack. Each paragraph contained multiple levels of meaning. Linguistic structures shifted subtly, creating conceptual spaces that didn't exist in the aliens' communication model. Mathematical references were woven into grammatical constructions. Psychological insights were embedded in seemingly innocent turns of phrase. "Send it," Dr. Rodriguez commanded. The transmission left Earth's communication array, a perfectly crafted piece of interstellar communication that was simultaneously a rejection, an invitation, a challenge, and an opportunity. Back on the luminary ship, the communication analysis team received the human response. At first, it seemed routine. But as their advanced translation systems began to parse the message, something extraordinary happened. The seemingly simple communication began to unfold like a complex origami, revealing layer after layer of meaning. What had initially appeared to be a standard diplomatic response was actually a multidimensional communication that challenged the very foundations of how the luminary understood interaction. Senior communication specialist Zora Vex felt something she had never experienced before: genuine intellectual uncertainty. The human message was not just a response. It was an entire philosophical framework disguised as a diplomatic note. "This is impossible," muttered one of the junior analysts, his translation matrix struggling to keep up with the message's complexity. But it was possible, and it was just the beginning. Humanity had just sent its first true message to the stars, not as a plea, not as a threat, but as an invitation to a completely new form of interstellar dialogue. The luminary diplomatic vessel descended through Earth's atmosphere with calculated precision. From the outside, it appeared to be a triumph of technological engineering, a sleek, crystalline structure that defied conventional understanding of aerodynamics. Commander Zora Vex watched through the ship's translucent hull as the blue-green planet grew larger, its surface a complex tapestry of geological and technological features. The standard protocol was clear. First contact with developing civilizations followed a carefully established procedure: demonstrate technological superiority, offer integration into the galactic community, and expect compliance. The Luminary had perfected this approach over centuries of exploration, encountering hundreds of species across multiple star systems. Earth would be different. As the ship approached the designated landing coordinates, a vast open area carefully selected to minimize potential conflict, the first signs of trouble emerge. The human response was nothing like any previous first contact scenario in galactic records. Instead of a unified governmental delegation, the landing site was a chaotic blend of scientific teams, military personnel, media representatives, and what appeared to be independent researchers. Sophisticated sensor nets surrounded the landing area, each device calibrated to gather unprecedented amounts of information. The Luminary quickly realized they were not just being observed, they were being comprehensively analyzed. Dr. Elena Rodriguez led the primary human response team. Where most species would approach alien visitors with either terror or complete submission, her team approached with a mixture of scientific curiosity and strategic caution that immediately set the Luminary on edge. "We're not here to be studied," announced the Luminary diplomatic lead, a senior official named Krell Vor. "We're here to offer your civilization an opportunity for advancement." Dr. Rodriguez's response was a masterpiece of diplomatic complexity. "Advancement," she repeated, the word seeming to take on multiple meanings in her careful pronunciation. "Perhaps we should discuss what that means." The humans had prepared in ways the Luminary could not have anticipated. Every piece of communication, every potential technological exchange had been meticulously wargamed. Where other species would have accepted alien technology as a gift, the human team saw each offered device as a potential puzzle to be understood, reverse-engineered, and potentially transformed. A demonstration of Luminary technology, a device capable of generating complex energy fields, became the first point of unexpected conflict. As the Luminary representatives activated the device, expecting to impress the humans, something extraordinary happened. A team of human engineers and physicists had already begun analyzing its fundamental principles. Within hours, not days or years as would be typical with most developing civilizations, the humans began to understand the device's core mechanisms. But more than that, they started identifying potential modifications, alternative applications that the Luminary had never considered. "Your energy generation is inefficient," Dr. Rodriguez noted casually, presenting a series of computational models that demonstrated alternative approaches. "We can improve this." The statement was not a boast. It was a matter-of-fact observation that fundamentally challenged the Luminary's understanding of technological hierarchy. Military personnel watched the interaction with careful eyes. Sophisticated defense systems were subtly activated, not as a threat, but as a preparatory measure. The humans were preparing for every possible scenario, treating the alien encounter as a complex, multidimensional challenge. Krell Vor realized something profound was happening. This was not a typical first contact scenario. The humans were not impressed, afraid, or submissive. They were engaged, actively, dynamically, transformatively engaged. As the first day of contact drew to a close, the Luminary leadership found themselves in a situation they had never encountered. The humans had not been conquered, impressed, or intimidated. They had transformed the entire concept of first contact into something entirely new. Something dangerous. Something unprecedented. The galactic community would never be the same. The Luminary research vessel orbited Earth, its advanced computational systems working overtime to process the unprecedented flood of data. Commander Zara Vex stared at holographic displays that seemed to change faster than her neural implants could track. What had begun as a routine first contact mission had transformed into the most complex study of an emerging civilization in galactic history. Dr. Marcus Chen's team had done something impossible. Within days of receiving Luminary communication technologies, they had not just understood the systems, they had begun to fundamentally reimagine them. A communication relay designed for long-range interstellar transmission had been modified into a multi-dimensional information processing network that the original designers would barely recognize. "Look at this," whispered Krell, the senior scientific analyst, his voice a mixture of frustration and reluctant admiration. A holographic display showed the progression of human technological adaptation. Where most species would take decades to integrate a single piece of advanced technology, humans were creating entirely new technological paradigms within weeks. An agricultural monitoring satellite, originally part of the Luminary's planetary management system, had been transformed by human researchers into a complex predictive model for global climate change. The original design was meant to track crop yields and resource distribution. The human modification turned it into a sophisticated early warning system that could predict environmental changes with unprecedented accuracy. The most shocking example came from an unexpected source. A medical diagnostic tool, designed to provide basic health assessments, had been completely reimagined. Human bioengineers had not just understood its principles, they had expanded its functionality to address multiple health challenges that the Luminary had considered unsolvable. "They don't just learn," Commander Vex noted to her senior staff. "They completely reimagine the fundamental purpose of technology." Each piece of shared technology became something entirely new in human hands. The communication encryption system became a revolutionary approach to data privacy. An energy generation prototype was modified to address sustainable power challenges. Even seemingly simple computational algorithms were expanded into complex problem-solving frameworks. The human approach defied every established model of technological development. Most species followed a linear path of innovation, incrementally improving existing technologies. Humans seem to view technology as a fluid concept, something to be constantly questioned, challenged, and reimagined. Dr. Elena Rodriguez led a presentation that became a turning point in the Luminary's understanding. Using a Luminary communication matrix as a foundation, her team had developed an entirely new approach to information transfer. The presentation wasn't just a demonstration of technological capability, it was a philosophical statement about the nature of innovation. "Adaptation is not about improvement," she explained to the bewildered Luminary delegation. "It's about constant reimagination." The scientific team watched in stunned silence as Rodriguez demonstrated how a simple communication protocol could be transformed into a complex problem-solving system. What the Luminary had designed as a straightforward information transfer mechanism had become something else entirely, a dynamic, living system of knowledge exchange. Krell's computational analysis struggled to keep up. The human approach to technology seemed to operate on principles that existed between established scientific paradigms. They didn't just think outside the box, they seemed to view the box itself as a flexible concept. One of the most striking examples came from an unexpected field. A Luminary waste management technology, designed to process industrial byproducts, was transformed by human environmental scientists into a comprehensive ecosystem restoration system. Where the original technology saw waste as a problem to be managed, the humans saw it as an opportunity for regeneration. As the orbital research continued, the Luminary leadership began to realize something profound. Humanity was not just a developing civilization to be cataloged and potentially integrated. They were something entirely different, a species that could fundamentally change the understanding of technological and cultural development. The most dangerous quality of humans, the reports would later note, was not their technology. It was their ability to see potential where others saw limitations. The Luminary psychological research team worked in a state of perpetual confusion. What they had anticipated would be a straightforward analysis of a developing civilization had become an increasingly complex puzzle that challenged everything they understood about intelligence and communication. Dr. Krell sat in the observation chamber, reviewing countless hours of human interactions. Unlike most species the Luminary had encountered, humans seemed to operate on multiple psychological levels simultaneously. Their communication was not linear, but a complex, multidimensional network of verbal and nonverbal interactions that defied standard computational models. A simple diplomatic meeting would reveal layers of complexity that left the alien researchers stunned. Where most species communicated with direct, predictable patterns, humans used what could only be described as psychological warfare, not as a means of conflict, but as a fundamental mode of interaction. Take, for example, a trade negotiation between human representatives and luminary diplomatic corps. What began as a standard economic discussion became an intricate dance of language, subtext, and strategic positioning. The human team didn't just negotiate. They transformed the entire concept of negotiation into a creative problem-solving exercise. One of the most striking discoveries came from analyzing human creative expressions. Their art, literature, and media were not mere entertainment, but complex systems of cultural communication. A simple comedy show contained layers of social commentary, psychological insight, and cultural critique that would take most species years to decode. The luminary psychological matrix began to break down when trying to predict human behavior. Traditional predictive models, which worked across hundreds of different species, failed completely when applied to humans. Where most civilizations followed predictable psychological patterns, humans seemed to revel in unpredictability. Dr. Elena Rodriguez demonstrated this during a seemingly routine cultural exchange. What the luminary expected to be a straightforward presentation of cultural information became a masterful display of psychological complexity. She didn't just share information. She created an entire narrative framework that challenged the aliens' fundamental understanding of communication. Prediction is limitation, she explained, a statement that initially seemed nonsensical to the luminary researchers. But as they continued to analyze human interactions, they began to understand. Humans viewed psychological boundaries not as fixed structures, but as flexible, constantly negotiable spaces. The research team discovered something even more profound. Humans had developed psychological adaptation as a survival mechanism far more powerful than any technological defense. They could reframe challenges, transform potential conflicts, and find creative solutions in spaces where other species would see only insurmountable obstacles. A particularly revealing moment came during a simulated conflict scenario. Most species would respond to a threatening situation with either aggression or submission. The human team approached the same scenario as a complex problem-solving exercise, demonstrating psychological flexibility that seemed to defy established scientific understanding. Their language itself was a weapon of psychological complexity. Idioms, metaphors, and contextual references created communication layers that went far beyond simple information transfer. A human could communicate multiple contradictory ideas simultaneously, using context, tone, and subtle linguistic nuances that most species would find incomprehensible. The luminary began to realize that human creativity was not just an intellectual exercise, it was a fundamental survival mechanism. Where other species had developed physical or technological defenses, humans had cultivated an almost impossible ability to reframe and reimagine their own existence. Dr. Krell Vor's final report was unlike any in the organization's history. It wasn't a scientific analysis, but a kind of philosophical revelation. Humans were not just a species to be studied, but a fundamental challenge to everything the luminary understood about intelligence, communication, and potential. The most dangerous quality of humans, the report concluded, is their ability to see potential where others see limitations. They do not just adapt to challenges, they transform them. As the research continued, one thing became increasingly clear. Humanity represented something entirely new in the galaxy's understanding of intelligent life. The Global Conference Center hummed with an electricity that transcended typical diplomatic interactions. Representatives from every major human institution gathered alongside the luminary delegation, creating a scene that would be recorded as a pivotal moment in the history of interstellar relations. Dr. Marcus Chen stood at the center of the chaos, a master conductor of an incredibly complex symphony of communication. The luminary had arrived expecting a standard negotiation. Instead, they found themselves in the middle of a collaborative problem-solving exercise that defied every established protocol of first contact. Commander Zarevex watched with growing understanding. The humans were not preparing for a traditional meeting. They were creating an entirely new framework of interaction. The initial luminary strategy had been straightforward: present their galactic protocols, offer technological integration, and expect compliance. What they encountered was something entirely different. Each proposed protocol was met not with acceptance or rejection, but with a comprehensive reimagining. A luminary communication network design became the first point of discussion. Where most species would have either accepted or rejected the technology, the human team began a comprehensive analysis that went far beyond simple technological assessment. They didn't just evaluate the system. They began to conceptualize entirely new approaches to information exchange. Dr. Elena Rodriguez led the human presentation. Her approach was neither confrontational nor submissive. Instead, she demonstrated a way of thinking that existed in the spaces between established paradigms. The luminary technological proposals were not dismissed. They were transformed. Integration is not about replacement, she explained, her words carefully chosen to convey multiple layers of meaning. It's about collective evolution. The luminary delegation found themselves in uncharted territory. Their standard diplomatic matrices began to break down. Humans were not approaching the interaction as a hierarchical exchange, but as a collaborative opportunity for mutual growth. One by one, the proposed luminary protocols were examined. But examination was the wrong word. The humans were performing something closer to intellectual alchemy, taking existing concepts and transforming them into something entirely new. The communication protocol became a framework for cultural exchange. A technological transfer suggestion became a blueprint for collaborative research. Krell, the senior luminary analyst, realized something profound was happening. The humans were not just resisting integration. They were redefining the entire concept of interstellar cooperation. Where most species saw first contact as a moment of submission or conflict, humans saw an opportunity for comprehensive reimagination. The most striking moment came during a discussion of resource sharing. The luminary expected a standard negotiation about technological and material exchange. Instead, the human team presented a comprehensive proposal that went far beyond simple resource allocation. They proposed a model of collaborative development that challenged everything the luminary understood about interstellar relations. It wasn't about who had more advanced technology or who would lead. It was about creating a new form of collective intelligence. Biological researchers demonstrated how human genetic diversity could provide insights into adaptive systems that the luminary had never considered. Environmental scientists showed how Earth's complex ecosystems could inform galactic approaches to planetary management. Technological teams revealed how human problem-solving approached challenges from multiple simultaneous perspectives. As the day progressed, the luminary delegation underwent a fundamental transformation. This was not a first contact scenario. This was the beginning of something entirely new, a form of interaction that transcended traditional understanding of civilization. The most dangerous quality of humans, the luminary were beginning to understand, was not their technology or their adaptability. It was their ability to see potential where others saw boundaries. By the conference's conclusion, it was clear that nothing would remain the same. The galaxy had encountered something unprecedented, a species that didn't just participate in the existing system of interstellar relations, but was capable of fundamentally reimagining that system. Humanity had transformed first contact from a moment of potential conflict into an opportunity for collective evolution. The research station orbited Earth in a delicate dance of technological marvel and collaborative potential. What had begun as a tense first contact scenario had transformed into something no galactic civilization had ever witnessed, a true partnership of equals. Dr. Elena Rodriguez moved through the multilingual research hub, her steps reflecting the complex choreography of interspecies collaboration. Around her, human and luminary researchers worked side by side, their differences becoming strengths rather than barriers. The station itself was a physical manifestation of their unique approach, designed not by a single species, but through a comprehensive collaborative process that challenged every existing model of technological development. Dr. Marcus Chen watched a team of human biochemists and luminary xenobiologists work on a project that would have been impossible mere months ago. They were exploring adaptive genetic systems, combining human biological diversity with luminary advanced genetic research. The preliminary results suggested something revolutionary, a new approach to understanding biological adaptation that transcended individual species limitations. Krell Vor, once a skeptical luminary diplomatic analyst, now led the collaborative research initiative. His neural implants processed information in a way that had been completely transformed by human interaction. Where once he saw rigid scientific protocols, he now understood the power of creative problem-solving. The collaboration wasn't just scientific. It was philosophical, cultural, and fundamentally transformative. A breakthrough came from an unexpected source. A team combining human environmental scientists and luminary planetary management experts developed a new approach to ecosystem restoration. Their model could potentially rehabilitate planets that had been considered permanently damaged, a challenge that had stumped galactic civilizations for centuries. "We're not just solving problems," Dr. Rodriguez explained during a comprehensive research review. "We're reimagining the entire concept of problem-solving." The luminary leadership watched in a state of continuous astonishment. Humans didn't approach collaboration as a series of transactions or exchanges. They saw it as a dynamic, living process of mutual growth. Each shared technology, each exchanged idea became something entirely new, a hybrid of human creativity and luminary precision. The research station became more than a scientific facility. It was a living experiment in collective intelligence. Communication systems developed here challenged everything known about information exchange. Technological innovations emerged not from individual brilliance, but from the complex interactions between different ways of thinking. One particularly striking project involved developing adaptive communication networks. The human team brought their understanding of complex, nonlinear communication. The luminary contributed their advanced computational technologies. The result was a communication system that could adapt in real time, learning and evolving faster than any previously known network. Krell Vor's research logs became legendary within both human and luminary scientific communities. They documented not just scientific discoveries, but a fundamental shift in understanding intelligence itself. Humans didn't just think differently. They approached thinking as a dynamic, collaborative process. The most profound moments often came unexpectedly. A casual conversation between a human linguist and a luminary computational expert would suddenly spark an entirely new approach to scientific research. Lunch breaks became impromptu brainstorming sessions. Rest periods transformed into collaborative thinking exercises. Cultural exchanges went far beyond simple information sharing. Human artists worked with luminary architects to create entirely new forms of environmental design. Musicians explored how different species perceived sound, creating multimedia experiences that challenged existing understanding of sensory perception. As the research continued, it became clear that this was more than a scientific collaboration. It was the beginning of a new form of collective intelligence, a way of approaching knowledge that transcended individual species' limitations. The station's primary computer system captured the essence of this collaboration. It wasn't a luminary system modified by humans, or a human system enhanced by luminary technology. It was something entirely new, a hybrid system that reflected the best of both civilizations. Dr. Rodriguez's final report to the Global Research Council captured the true nature of their achievement. We are not just sharing knowledge. We are creating an entirely new way of understanding potential. The galaxy watched and waited, understanding that something unprecedented was happening. Humanity had not just made first contact. They had redefined the very concept of interstellar collaboration. The Galactic Conference Center fell silent as the final report was presented. Representatives from thousands of civilizations listened with a mixture of anticipation and uncertainty. What had begun as a routine first contact scenario had transformed into something that would reshape the understanding of intelligence itself. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood at the center of the massive holographic projection, her presentation a culmination of years of unprecedented research. Behind her, visualizations danced, complex networks of interaction that defied traditional scientific categorization. Dr. Marcus Chen, seated among the senior researchers, reflected on the journey that had brought them to this moment. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy through military might or technological superiority. They had fundamentally reimagined the concept of interstellar interaction. The luminary delegation, once skeptical observers, now sat as collaborative partners. HFY War, who had once viewed humans as a primitive species to be cataloged, now stood as a testament to the transformative power of genuine understanding. "We are not presenting a report," Dr. Rodriguez began, her voice carrying across the massive chamber. "We are sharing a new perspective on potential." The holographic display began to unfold. It wasn't a traditional scientific presentation, but a living, dynamic representation of collective intelligence. Streams of data intertwined with cultural expressions, technological innovations merged with philosophical insights. The visualization defied traditional scientific boundaries, showing how knowledge could exist as a fluid, interconnected system. The presentation revealed humanity's true strength, not in individual achievements, but in their ability to create connection. Where most species saw boundaries, humans saw opportunities for collaboration. Where others saw limitations, humans saw potential for growth. Case studies emerged that challenged everything known about civilizational development. A planetary restoration project that combined luminary environmental technologies with human adaptive strategies. A communication network that learned and evolved in real time. Medical research that approached healing as a holistic, interconnected process. The most profound moments came from unexpected discoveries. Humans had not just adapted to challenges, they had transformed the very concept of challenge into an opportunity for collective growth. Their approach to problem-solving was less about finding solutions and more about reimagining possibilities. HFY War presented a series of collaborative research outcomes. Projects that had begun as simple exchanges had transformed entire fields of scientific understanding. A joint exploration of genetic adaptation had revealed new approaches to understanding biological resilience. A collaborative study on communication systems had developed entirely new models of information exchange. The presentation was not a conclusion. It was an invitation. "We are not presenting a finished product," Dr. Rodriguez explained. "We are sharing a method of understanding. Our greatest strength is not what we know, but our ability to learn, to adapt, to reimagine." A holographic display shifted, showing the complex network of interactions that had emerged from human luminary collaboration. It was a living visualization of collective intelligence, a web of connections that defied traditional scientific categorization. Representatives from various galactic civilizations watched in a state of collective astonishment. This was not a report of conquest or technological superiority. This was a blueprint for a new way of existing. The final segment of the presentation was unexpected. Instead of technical data, it showed moments of human creativity. An artist collaborating with a luminary architect, a musician exploring sound with a xenobiologist, a chef experimenting with interstellar ingredients. These were not separate moments. They were part of a complex, interconnected system of potential. "Danger is not about destruction," Dr. Rodriguez concluded. "It is about the ability to transform. Humanity's greatest quality is not our technology. It is our capacity to see potential where others see boundaries." As the presentation concluded, something fundamental had changed. The galaxy would never be the same. Humanity had not conquered the stars. They had invited the stars to reimagine themselves.